Welcome to Marlene's Atelier. Mark stitches are one of the coolest tools that tailors have. They allow us to transfer all of those chalk lines to the front side of our garment so we can see the entire pattern for the totality of our project. Wow. Anyway, I'm going to be showing you how to do that on our beautiful pencil skirt today. So you're not going to want to miss this lesson. Stick around because that's what's happening in the atelier. Okay, so what are mark stitches? All right, mark stitches, what they do, okay, is they help transfer the pattern from the wrong side of the cloth to the right side. Because right now, we just have the pattern, chalked on one side of the cloth, the wrong side of the cloth. So, when we open this up, we obviously have no idea where the length is, where our waist is, where the darts are, nothing. Okay, so we have to do that. We have to transfer by doing mark stitching. And it's actually mark stitching, I think, is really fun. The other thing that we want to do as well is we want to transfer the dart positions onto the lining, okay? Mine is going to be a little challenging. I don't know. Oh, no, I guess I'll see it pretty well. All right, so let's do that first, okay? I'm going to take the pins out here, just a bit at a time. Yeah. So what I want to do here is I'm going to take my ruler, okay, and I'm going to lay it, just get this out of the way here so that you can really see what I'm doing. All right, so I'm going to lay my ruler right on the darts where they end, okay? And I'm going to pull this back, and I'm going to draw a chalk mark, okay? So I can see the chalk mark. And now, what I'm going to do is I'll lay that back out real nice, and I'm going to chalk across the legs and the bottom the same way. Okay, so I'm going to fold this back. I'm going to hold on to the cloth. Okay, here's my leg. Here's the bottom here. Chalk it. Okay. And then here's the other leg here. All right. And then I'll move over. There's my other leg here. Here, the bottom, okay? I know, look at all that chalk. All right, and then what I'm gonna do just to make my life a little easier is I'm just gonna chalk in my waistline. I have that little notch there, but I think it'll be much easier to come in just so I know. I can always come down that 2 centimeters as well, okay? So now I can see, and I can transfer these, I hope you can see that, they're very light, but I can transfer these chalk marks to the other side of the cloth as well. And we can check it because we know that the length of these darts is 9 centimeters, so they should be absolutely the same, okay? So I'll do that. I'll just put that aside. And I'll do the same thing over here, but let's do that first, I suppose. Okay? So here I will chalk in let's take these pins out. Okay, let's get these out of the way. All right. Very good. So we want to make sure that our lining hasn't shifted around. If it did, let's get it straight so we're sure that our darts are in the right place. Okay? Yeah, there we go. That's right. There we go. All right, perfect. Okay, so again, I'll chalk this in here. transferring the length of the dart. You know, the trick is keep that ruler pretty steady, right? Then we're going to come in here and we'll transfer the legs, top, the length as we move over, the other leg. All these little tricks we learn, right? They're very convenient. Here, this leg, oops, let's get the bottom. There we go. And then finally this leg here. You see, I'm all scooted around. There we go. All right. So we've got that. Perfect. And again, it's easy enough to just come down here 2 centimeters from the top and mark that. You see? In fact, I can see where my notch is, and I can just bring that straight across like that. Okay? There we go. So we'll put that aside, and I'll transfer the other darts when we get there. Okay. All right, so let's learn mark stitching, yes? What we need for mark stitching is our basting thread, okay? And we need a nice long piece because we're going to be doing this on the double. On the double. And if you can believe it, I left my thimble all the way on the other side of the table. Excuse me, one moment. You know, there we go. All right. So what I'm doing here is I'm doubling up my thread, okay? You don't want to give yourself too much because if you do, it's going to get all tangled up and it's going to be really annoying. So you don't need a lot of thread, okay? Double it up, do not knot it. Don't knot it, okay? And what we're going to do, so here's what we want to do. We want to make sure when we're mark stitching, if you have a long area, okay, such as here along the side seam, okay, we don't need to put like stitches like every centimeter. You can put stitches every 3 or 4 or 5 centimeters, right? So, and then, but the idea is you want to make sure that your stitches are close together. In other words, I might be doing leaving 3 centimeters in between each mark stitch, but I want the mark stitch to only have a 1/2 centimeter in between itself, okay? And I want each side of the mark stitch to be 1 centimeter long. Anywhere where 2 lines, a horizontal and a vertical line, cross over each other, you will put a cross on that as well, okay, so that you know that we're stopping here for the waist or we're stopping here for the length, all right? So let me show you. And we'll just put this guy aside. All right. I'll get things out of the way so you can see. Let's get this silt out of here too, because that has a way of getting all tangly. So right here at the top, I'm starting at the waistline. And because my waistline is crossing over with the side seam, I'm going to have a cross there, okay? Now, if you look at the amount of space I put here, right here, that's about a 1/2 centimeter, okay? You don't want any more than that. Otherwise, your stitches are going to fall out, okay? So here, what I do when I mark stitch is I just visually put my finger where I want my next stitch to be, okay? So here, so again, a 1/2 centimeter, and I pull it through. Not real tight. You don't have to pull it tight, you know? Even out my end here. I hate that. Leave it. Okay? And then again, I'll visually bring my finger here and put another stitch. Now, as we're coming down, you see that we've got the hip depth here, okay? So I know that I'm going to need another cross there, yeah? So I'm going to come a stitch here, and then I'll come another stitch here where I'm going to cross that over, okay? So now that I have several stitches in, all right, what I can do is I can come in here and cut them. So what we want to do is pull the stitch here on this end. You see there's about 1 centimeter there, okay? So you leave 1 centimeter and then cut 1 centimeter. And then pull your thread, leave 1 centimeter, cut 1 centimeter, et cetera, et cetera. We're going to keep going. Leave 1 centimeter, cut 1 centimeter until we're all the way down here, okay? Boom, boom, boom. And that's all there is to it. And honestly, you don't need any more mark stitches than what I have right here. Maybe one more. But that's a lot, you know, if you have a mark stitch like here, 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 it's so many. And a lot of times when people get started in tailoring and they start mark stitching, I think their fear is that, you know, if I don't put enough mark stitches in, I'm going to lose my pattern and I'm not going to be able to see it, okay? But that's not the case. So here, I'll continue mark stitching. Now this is a wonderful time too for you to learn how to use your needle, thimble, and thread, right? Because this may be the very first time that you're using your needle, thimble, and thread. And so it might take you a little bit of practice, but that's okay. Practice makes perfect, and before you know it, you'll get really, really good with your needle and thread, right? The other thing you want to make sure of is that you're using a basting needle. So if you can see here, my needle is pretty big. It's not a small needle. We're going to use small needles when we start doing some more intricate handwork, okay? For example, when we do pick stitching, we're going to pick stitch. We're actually going to pick stitch our darts, okay, on the cloth. I love that look, okay? So we're going to do a little pick stitching so you get a feel for what that's like, all right? So here, I'm just pulling the thread, leaving 1 centimeter, and here. So now I've worked my way down my side seam, okay? And now I can work across the length. Actually, that's a little, whoops, that's a little long. There we go. All right. And so here now, this is where I'm going to cross. Here's my length. I'm going to cross there. And again, just come across my length very nicely. Yeah, like so. Whoops. Whoops. There we go. Until you start running out of thread, and then of course you'll need to get some more, right? We don't have to mark stitch in our grain line. That's not necessary, okay? You don't need to do that. Not necessary at all. These are not the ideal scissors for doing this, but they're a little heavy. But I didn't feel like trying to find my other ones, so there I am, dealing with it. Okay? So what I'm going to do is I'm going to do a few more rows of this, and then so you can get a better idea, we'll do the front or the back of the skirt here so you can see it all mark stitched. And then I'll let you do the front on your own, and you can see how you did. Yeah? And then I'll show you how to cut your mark stitches. Now, what we like to do in tailoring is we like to leave the mark stitches in. In other words, we like to not cut them, leave them uncut, okay, until we're ready to use the garment, that piece. That way, you're sure that the garment doesn't get damaged in any way. The pieces are held together and the inside is kept nice and clean and safe, right? So we kind of do that. Here, now that I have the length in, all right, now I'm going to cross over. This is my kick pleat, where the inlay is for my kick pleat. Here. If you want, it makes it easy because this is a light, pretty light piece of cloth. You can put a weight down to help hold the cloth so it doesn't ravel up on you. It likes to do that. Okay? Here. Okay? The other thing too is you don't want to make your mark stitches too small, because if you do, when you go to cut them, okay, they're going to fall out. So that's why we leave a centimeter, so that we end up with a 1/2 centimeter on either side, right? Okay, perfect. Now here, what I'm going to do, because I'm going to work here at the hip line, okay, I'm just going to put a couple of mark stitches here off the edge, okay, just a couple. You don't need to go all the way across, all right? The only time that we would mark stitch all the way across our garment, okay, is if we were fitting, okay, because we'd want to see how does that balance line look, right? Is it straight? Does it fall off? You know, a lot of times it falls off. The back, it would mean the back of the skirt is too long and the front of the skirt is too short. We'd have a balance issue there, okay? But we're not doing that with this, so we're just going to put a couple of marks there. And then here I'll go across the top. Here. Normally when I'm coming across the waistband, I like to go a little bit smaller in between stitches, because I like to make sure that the waistband, I can see where the waistband's going to go, okay? And of course, because we have darts, we have to make sure we have a cross in the dart, okay? Don't overlook that. That's really important, okay? So you can see here my stitches are a little smaller than they were, okay? There. I've got more dust on these guys. It's killing me. There we go. They're very jaggedy when they get dusty. Oh, God, so much better. Goodness gracious. It's like the difference between cutting through butter and cutting through sand. Ugh, the thought. It's horrible. Horrible. All right. So a few more mark stitches here. Let's get some more thread. And we'll be done. And then you can do the front on your own. See how you do. I think you'll do fine. On the front, since you don't have any inlay along the side seam, really all you have to mark stitch is the length and the waist and your darts and your hip depth, and that's it. So that's pretty easy, okay? Yeah, pretty easy. All right. Just make sure I've got enough there on that end. Pulled it a little bit. Oh, there we go. Okay, there, 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 boom, boom, boom. Again, I crossed right here where the waist and the side seam meet. And all I have to do is finish off my dart positions. Super easy, here and here, right? Super easy. We'll turn it this way, and I'll put little crosses through them. Yeah, and we're all done. Not too bad, not too shabby for your first mark stitching project, right? Pretty simple, pretty straightforward, except for these ridiculously large scissors I'm working with to do it. I have a smaller pair that are much easier to work with. But it was bad enough I left the thimble. Let's not go gallivanting all over the studio, right? To try and find my supplies. Goodness gracious. All right, so there's 1, 2, 3, 4, yeah? And I'll do my other piece. This will be great. When we come back, the next thing that we're going to get into doing is shaping our foundation. What does that mean? Oh, you know what else we forgot? Let's not forget. We have to remember our zipper position here. Let's make sure we put a mark stitch or 2 there, okay? So that we know where our zipper ends. Good. So when we get back, what we're going to do is we're going to start shaping our foundation, right? Now, what does that mean? Well, we've got darts, and darts are part of shaping a garment. So what we're going to do is we're going to machine the darts that are on our lining, okay? But I want to show you how to pick stitch the darts on the skirt. Now you can decide if you want to pick stitch them or you want to machine them. It's up to you. We are going to machine just a little tiny bit of the dart at the bottom so we get a nice beautiful point, and I'll show you how to do that as well. So when we come back, we'll cut our mark stitches. That'll be super easy, and then we'll get into our darts and so forth and move right along. So sounds great. Hopefully you were able to get through mark stitching your skirt really nice. What we want to do now is I want to show you how to go about cutting your mark stitches, okay? Now, normally, if I was cutting my mark stitches by myself, okay, I would separate the cloth right in front of me, and I would cut right in front of me, okay? But if I do that, you're not going to see what I'm doing. So I'm going to switch it around, and I'm going to work upside down so that you can see how to cut these mark stitches, all right? So look, I'm just going to see. Let me position myself here towards my other camera so hopefully it can see what I'm doing. So what you want to do is you want to separate the cloth, okay, with your scissors. Hold your scissors down at the bottom and separate the cloth. Now here, the very first stitch I have is a corner, so you have to be careful, okay? But you're going to run your scissors along in between the 2 pieces of cloth and separate them with your hand, okay? And just very carefully cut in between each stitch. Now, of course, you would be doing this, okay, with the garment actually facing you so you could see what you're doing, right? But I just wanted to show you how to do this here. All right, so we're just going to separate the cloth and cut very carefully in between each stitch. And when you come to a corner, just be mindful so that you know you don't want to take too much and end up cutting your cloth, okay? So that's how you do that. It's not terribly difficult. It's actually very easy. And when you actually do it with the cloth facing you, it goes pretty quick, okay? So just so you can get an idea of what that would look like, I would normally hold my cloth like this, okay? And I would separate and just run my scissors in between the cloth, and it goes pretty quickly when you have it facing you, okay? So we're opening up the cloth, and so if you think about it logically, you're pulling about a 1/2 centimeter out so that you have 1 centimeter or 1/2 centimeter on either side of the cloth. And I'll just finish this up real quick here. So normally what I do is I just work my way around the whole outside of the pattern first, or of the cloth first, okay? And then I work on the inside. So if I have balance lines, darts, etc., okay? So here's that. And then see, I'll come down, I'll show you, I do this. So I fold this down, and these are my darts, so I have to be careful. There's four little guys here, see? So just cut that like so. Here, cut that like so. And of course we have a balance line here, right? We have our zipper. This is where our zipper is going to end. So we'll cut that there. And then, of course, we have another balance line here. Okay? So that's it. And then when you open it up, okay, you have all of your mark stitches to tell you where everything goes. So we can see here's where our zipper is going. All right, here's our inlay for the side seam. We've got our darts indicated by these little crosses all over. All right, boop, 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 boop. Easy. Easy breezy. Thank you for joining me in the atelier today. In my next lesson, I'm going to be adding shape to our beautiful pencil skirt by adding darts. And I'm going to show you how to do it both by hand and by machine. You won't want to miss it. That's what's happening next time in the atelier.